Hi, I'm Andy. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm glad you could make it here today. Hope you're having a good day. I'm having a pretty good day. Thanks, because it looks like with my internet, normal service might just possibly be being resumed. It's running pretty good at the moment. Won't know for a couple of days. In this video, we are going to do 5 cards from the Sirian Starseed Tarot. It's an amazing deck. It's like really, really massive, and I can hardly cope with it at all. But first, I just want to make a little thing about the technology that's being used by paranormal researchers at the moment, because I know this is kind of a controversial issue, kind of a strange topic that arouses quite strong opinions with people. But basically, I'm no stranger to watching YouTube myself. That's my main kind of source of media that I watch. And I watch paranormal investigations, obviously, because I'm very interested in that kind of thing. This house where I live has quite a lot of activity, for one thing. And so as I watch people, they're using various different apps and things on their phones, and spirit boxes, and there's a thing called Boo Buddy, which is like a teddy bear, which picks up all kinds of, picks up EVPs, it detects changes in temperature, that kind of thing. And people have had quite a lot of success with it, although it's profoundly expensive. And I don't think I'll be getting any of this stuff, actually, because I was taught mediumship just to use mental mediumship. And from what I've seen, I think I get much better results doing that than I would if I actually used a spirit box or something. But a lot of people criticise these things, and quite honestly, I think it's just because it's modern. The people who taught me certainly didn't have access to any kind of digital equipment or anything like that. But actually, if we go back about 2 or 3 generations of mediums, those mediums were taught by people who came out of the 1920s spiritualist revival following the First World War, really, when so many young and old men suddenly lost their lives, really because of the war, and so there was a lot of devastation and a lot of upset and bereavement going round, causing a lot of hurt in people's lives, really. And people became very interested in being able to talk to the other side. But in those days, they weren't completely bereft of technology. There was a direct voice kind of technique, which involved using a big horn like you would see on an old gramophone record player, and the voice of spirit would come out of this horn, and people doubted it on all kinds of levels, of course. But people doubt mediumship, whatever happens. People doubt anything paranormal or anything spiritual, almost regardless. Some people just are not comfortable with it, and rather than say, well, I'm not comfortable with that, and leave it, they feel like they have to kind of try and bring the whole thing down and debunk it and that kind of thing. And that's, that's just what it is, that's all I can say about that. There's no getting away from it. That's what people are like, and that's something that the paranormal movement has always, in a way, suffered from. Although really, if you believe these things, you believe them. Nothing's really ever going to stop you believing them. And this is where the scientists annoy me, the people like Brian Cox, who, always, you shouldn't believe in anything spiritual, it's impossible. But, the fact is, people believe these things for good reasons. And just because a scientist comes along and says, no, you mustn't do that, it's not going to make any difference to what people actually believe, is it? So anyway, I've gone off the point a bit, but what I'm trying to say is that as far back as, well, even before the 1920s, there were technologies around that were being used by ghost hunters and mediums and paranormal researchers. Even as recently as the 1960s, that generation of mediums were using things like infrared goggles, which you would put on, and they had infrared glass in them. And that would actually make it easier to see spirit, as if they were physically, it's not physically there, is it? But, they do come around us, and you could actually see them better with these infrared goggles. That's the thing. And those very people are criticising the rest of us who are interested in things like spirit boxes And within that whole range of stuff, there are some things that I think might very well be genuine and some things that probably aren't, you know, because there have always been people who just wanted to make money off this and didn't really care about it. And I noticed lots of apps for the iPhone. And I might review some soon, actually, because I think on this channel it's going to be good to do a little, you know, we're going to keep up the card readings, absolutely for sure. We're going to keep doing the live sessions because I love them and I know you love them too. Hit the subscribe, by the way, so you'll be notified when those live sessions come up. But I'm going to start looking into some, you know, different aspects of what goes on with the paranormal, and we'll talk about witchcraft and stuff like that as well. So, you know, yeah, spirit boxes, that's certainly going to be a thing, and I'll make a dedicated video about them, I'm sure, because I've done lots of research in the last, probably the last month or two. I've been looking into those. And I tried some of the free apps, and a lot of them I'm not terribly sure that I trust. A lot of them seem to be just random noises coming out, and I guess if you listen to it for long enough, it would say any name you could think of eventually. And it would say anything you could think of. Some of them sort of go, help me, and some of them say get out, and things that people just associate with what they think ghost hunting is all about and what they think spirituality, well, spiritualism is all about. But there are other ones that have been quite impressive. I tried one called Hope, and it's a free app for the iPhone. So it's easy enough to download it and try it because I didn't have to pay anything. And I was fairly impressed with that, actually, because rather than just long strings of random words and noises, it was actually isolating certain sounds, many of which were words and some of which weren't. But these sounds would actually come out and it would only give you what it thought was relevant, rather than just kind of long strings of stuff, which quite honestly is it's not as bad as it sounds, these sound banks with lots of different sounds in them. Because really when spirit work through a medium, they're actually using that medium's vocabulary as a way of putting their own words out into the world. They can only put words out that the medium knows. One of my best teachers of this actually told me that, you know, probably the best thing you could do in learning mediumship is just to read lots of books. So you've got lots of expressions and you're familiar with lots of different ways people have of speaking and of writing. And certainly with trance mediumship, it is very important that you have a broad base of general knowledge, I suppose, but more than anything, lots of words in there that the spirit people can actually choose from. One bad review I read about something, I think it was Necrophonic. So this is just kind of all sorts of information and it's no good at all. And really, you know, that's what you need. You need a big bank of information for spirit to be able to choose from. So I'm in two minds. I really don't know which way to go on this, but I do know that not everybody has the gift of mediumship. And there are many people who do have the gift of mediumship, but just haven't come to the time in their life when it's going to come to the fore and they're going to be able to use it yet. That's a fact of life. You know, there are many more mediums than actually know they're mediums, if you get my meaning. But there are people who just aren't on that wavelength, and I think it's a really good thing if they can get a gadget or something that'll get them in touch. But I do know that as a medium I get an awful lot more than just kind of yes, no, help me, that kind of thing. That said though, if we go right back to 1847 and the Fox sisters in Hydesville who began the modern spiritualist movement, they were really working just with yes and no. There was a system of knocks. I think it was one knock for yes and two knocks for no, or it might have been the other way around. But it was always yes and no questions and answers. And in British spiritualist churches, it's still very much done that way to the present day. So I'm not sure how many sounds you need. I'm not sure about a whole lot of things, actually. But we will do some explorations into that. Anyway, with that, let us get down to a reading. Let me pick this deck up. It is the Sirian Starseed Tarot, which is upside down at the moment, by Patricia Corey and Elisa Bartha. I'm just going to shut the camera off a minute while I get the cards out, because it's really easy to drop them. They are so big. Here we go. I'd like to actually build a machine to shuffle these things, because it's extremely difficult to do. But I've had a pretty good shuffle off camera, which I'm just kind of finishing now. And yeah, I think at this point I'll stop before I throw the cards all over the floor. And I'm going to cut the deck 5 different times. That's what to do. Okay, so cut once, cut twice, and they're stuck together. I wish they wouldn't do that. But I do have one deck that never sticks together, actually, and it's impossible to get the box open on that one. So there's always something, always bound to be. Cut 3 times. Cut, let's go near the end for this one. Cut 4 times, and we'll cut a 5th time there. Okie dokie. Right, so here we have 5 Sirian Starseed Tarot cards. Let me just get them all sorted out now in my hands. And okay, so if you're ready, dear viewer, please pick one of these cards, or pick 2 of them, or 3 of them, or 4 of them, or why not pick all of them? I know that because I do these readings, I tend to take all 5 myself, you know, because somehow Spirit have presented all 5 of them to me. But you can pick 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay. Right, finally wrestled the cards out of the box and got things going. So here we go. First one, Higher Self. Okay, now this is number 2 in the major arcana of this deck. Higher Self. It's the High Priestess, essentially, in lots of ways, and the image does bear that out, really. And we're seeing the High Priestess standing there, kind of half in and half out of the water. But that's the nature of the spiritual life, actually, and particularly priests and mediums and people who actually are involved in bringing the divine wisdom through to people. Kind of, we're of this world, but not of this world. It's true of everyone in some respect or other, actually. But here we have the priestess. She's standing in the water, and yet she's up out of the water talking to us as well. And if we look behind her, there is that massive journey that we could, or maybe we'll decide not yet, to actually go on. But if you pick this card, friends, I really urge you to take a look at this journey, because it's unfolding before you, and it's actually meant to be happening. Let me look a little bit more closely. And we've got a full moon here. We can't see the whole moon, but it's very clearly a full moon. Excuse me, full moon. Whenever I get hiccups, it's kind of a good sign, and kind of annoying in terms of making the video difficult, but there we go. That's something that's on my journey that I have to kind of cope with, you know, and whatever hassles, whatever problems are going to come to you on your spiritual journey, the important thing is to keep making that journey. So card number 1, the High Priestess. It's all safe in the background. It's kind of dark in a sense, because we don't actually know what the journey is going to bring us, but it's safe to go on that journey. That's the message of this card. Okay, card number 2. Here we go. And what have we here? It is the 9 of Orbs, essentially the 9 of Pentacles, but it is the 9 of Orbs because this is the Sirian Starseed Tarot. So a definite feeling of, you know, the need of earthiness and grounding here, and that's going to be important. If you picked all 5 cards, this comes very well after the High Priestess, actually. And so here's this guy who's down on the ground, and he's kind of puzzled, isn't he? And what's he puzzled about? Well, he's having worldly success. There's no doubt about that with the 9 of Orbs, because the orbs, the pentacles, are all about abundance, and that in so many ways is a success. But he's not, something's not right, and he's racking his brains. And that's the right thing to do, because what he really needs to actually go through in his mind at this point in his journey is, has he left something important behind? Is he right to be going forward at all at this point? It's a question mark. Well, yes, he is, because he's at the 9 of Pentacles. But before he gets all the way to 10, and before everything is signed, sealed and delivered, he needs to make sure that he's either not left a person or a thing behind, or a piece of knowledge, you know. So if you drew this card, friends, rack your brains, think of things that aren't actually at the forefront of your mind at the moment, but which have been a part of your journey, because that is going to make such a difference. The earthiness is really, really shouting at us in this card. It almost looks like a waterfall here. Of course, it's not a waterfall because it's in a forest on dry land. But there we go. That takes us back, doesn't it? And it makes us think of the past. Wherever in the world is dry now may very well have been under the sea, or might have been a river, or like here, a waterfall at some time in history. The forms and shapes of nature repeat themselves, whatever part of nature we find ourselves in, actually. But there's a sort of hidden waterfall theme going on here. Let me bring that up and hope it focuses for you to see. Definite hidden waterfall theme going on there. So I'll leave that with you. That's going to mean more to you than it does to me, if you know what I mean. I can talk about these cards, but it's what they mean to you. That's what really matters about these readings. And this brings us to card number 3. Central card of the reading. If you picked all 4, if you picked all 5, it all hinges on this. If you just pick this one, it all hinges on this. And it is Divine Justice. There we go. Very Libran looking card there. Divine Justice, and everything coming into balance, or everything maybe isn't in balance and it needs to come into balance as we go forward on the journey. But at this stage, it's all about balance. It's all about getting one side kind of equal to the other side. And this is so important because everything on the spiritual journey needs to be balanced, and the spiritual journey itself needs to be in balance with the rest of life. We are given these lives for a reason, and the spiritual journey is not about a different life, it's about deepening our understanding of the life that we were actually given, the life that we were actually in. I know, for example, there's a big ordination. Lots of people are being ordained as Christian priests in Llandaff Diocese, which is a church area quite near to me. And I was watching that live on YouTube earlier. Just I've been in all that, and it interests me. And they're telling these priests, you know, cut off your old life, that's all gone. This is your new life as a priest. It's completely different. And I take issue with that. Actually, maybe some of the priests do as well, to be fair. But it is actually a deepening and a different expression of the same life. It's a new part of the same life. And that journey forwards, friends, is always about something new every day. Put it that way, I'm running out of words. But something new every day is what the universe shows us. And it's what we need to contemplate and believe, digest mentally within ourselves, and actually make use of, to make sense of it. It's a very fiery card here, and the Justice Lady is actually blindfolded, which is worth thinking about, actually, because this takes us right back to that first High Priestess card. We are very much blindfolded as we go through this worldly existence as to the nature of what is spiritual. And if you use the spirit box, if you use paranormal ghost hunting stuff, you might be able to see a little bit through that blindfold. But it's never really going to make sense until our time comes and we pass into the heavens ourselves, into the afterlife, into the life between incarnations, where we get to know the rest of the picture. Card number 3. What, my friends, is card number 4? This is the question. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I know now. Okay, let's turn it round. It's Major Arcana again, trying to read the number. It looks like number 4 to me, but it's very dark. And it's Reason. And if I'm right and it is number 4, then it's essentially another expression of the Emperor. But in the Sirian Starseed Tarot, if I can get the words out, this is what we're looking at. It's the Reason card. Comes very well after the Balance card of Justice that we've just had. It's another expression of balance, isn't it? It's reasoning things out. Everything about this reading actually is saying, oh, hold on a minute, just kind of think, just contemplate what you're actually doing, where you're actually going. And that's no bad thing. It really isn't. I used to run a spiritualist circle in a church where people learned to become mediums. And I had this rule it was a rule that I picked up from the person who ran the circle where I started, that we would always go at the pace of the slowest, because the slowest person in that group was divinely driven to be in that group and was meant by spirit to be in that group, so we didn't want to leave them behind. And it gave a great opportunity to go over and over things, even for people who thought they knew it all, or that's some of them did actually, but most people who wanted to go a bit faster were frustrated just because they'd already learned this stuff quite deeply and were quite seriously committed people. But it was great to go over and over and over things, and this is really coming out in this reading in a big way. So reason, here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights in a pattern. I can't read them too well on the camera screen. Let me just take a look. Yeah, they're cuboids, really. They're kind of cubes, and there's a pentagram shape there as well, all shown at different angles. And it lets you know, really, that when you're looking at something, it might not be what it looks like. Like you might see a square, and actually if it turned the other way up, you'd realise it was the base of a pyramid. That's the kind of thing we're looking at here. We just need to go over things. That is the only reasonable thing to do. And that is what the reason card, as card number 4, is showing us in this reading from the Sirian Starseed Tarot. So friends, this brings us to the last card in today's reading. It is the Master of Orbs. Here we go. Let's turn around, the Master of Orbs. So we've got that pentacle idea, we've got that earthiness coming into things as well. And this guy is very grounded, even though he is up many steps. He's, so he's up off the ground, but he's grounded because he's got a solid connection between his feet and the earth beneath the mound he's standing on, which looks kind of man-made. But that is no bad thing. That is really where spiritual development is taking us all. It's taking us to a higher level of the same experience. It's understanding more about the life we've got. I was talking at the beginning about paranormal research. That's all about trying to understand the afterlife for sure. But people thirst after those experiences and that knowledge, because we all innately know in our heart and soul that the life we're living is one of many incarnations that come one after the other, and incarnations that have gaps between them. And what goes on during those gap periods? Well, that is when we are actually between worlds. So to achieve mastery in this world and be the master of abundance, spiritually speaking, is a wonderful thing. Any kind of abundance is wonderful, isn't it? Even if it's not what you're looking for, at least you've got loads of something. And you can always do something with loads of something. That's what I reckon. But sounds a bit waffly. But here he is up in the heavens, and very spiritual kind of clothing he's wearing. Looks rather martial artsy to me, and the martial arts are a wonderful expression of spiritual understanding of worldly forces and worldly abilities, and the Master of Orbs is the master of abundance and the master of all of it. So there you go. On the journey of this reading, we are actually coming towards mastery through the whole thing of finding balance and reasoning things out and everything else that's come up in the reading. Contemplation, I guess, is what it's all about. And it doesn't slow us down, you see. We take time to contemplate, and that lifts us up again and again, every time. Well, friends, I hope this reading has lifted you up. I have enjoyed doing it, and I am loving being able to use the internet again. Another couple of days, and I'll open myself up to putting myself out there, really, to do readings live, actually on Zoom or Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, those kind of platforms where we can chat to each other. So if you'd like a reading like that, or an astrological birth chart, that's another thing I do, please get in touch at the email address in the description, which is down below or up there somewhere. Some things you have to tap a little arrow and you get the description. It's all in there. Oh, a bit of a glitchy camera there. Apparently the internal temperature was too high, so I gave it a moment to cool. Anyway, Anyway, yes, as I was saying, email me 35and83@gmail.com. That is 35and83@gmail.com. If you'd like a reading or if you'd like to talk about stuff, I'm all up for talking about stuff. It's part of the journey. It's been great sharing the journey with you guys. Do leave me a comment so we can keep on sharing that journey closer and closer. Please drop a like on this one if you've enjoyed it, and why not hit the subscribe button? Lots of reasons to actually hit it, please do, because every video I do coming up is a reason to hit that subscribe button. There is more coming all the time, and remember to ring that bell so you get all the notifications. Meanwhile, love, light, blessings, and of course peace, and have a fantastic time ahead, friends. Bye bye.